Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. Dean was raising his glass when he said it. Half grin, full volume, everyone listening. I mean, hey, someone's got to keep the printers working, right? He laughed, eyes darting right at me. Not all of us can be closing tech mega deals. Laughter exploded around the room like fireworks. I sat there, wine glass in hand, frozen. My face went warm, but I didn't blink. Just smiled like I was used to it. Because I was. My name's Janelle Stratton. I'm 29, and I live in Falls Church, Virginia, about 10 minutes outside DC. I do cybersecurity work, real cybersecurity. But right then, I was just the family's IT help desk again. Right on cue. Quick note before we keep going. Share which city or country you're watching from. Always cool to see where people are tuning in. The party was for Dean. Surprise engagement, surprise champagne, surprise standing ovation for locking in a deal with some West Coast tech monster. He was glowing. Everyone else just circled him like moths. Our parents had rented out the upstairs of some trendy farm-to-table place in Alexandria. String lights, open bar, little cards on each table with Dean's face printed next to the company logo. You'd think he got elected president. I was in the corner, keeping quiet like always. Not bitter, just surviving. Dean lifted his glass again. Seriously, I couldn't have done it without you guys. Mom, Dad, thanks for the support. Even Janelle, who's out there doing, well, whatever it is she does, probably still resetting passwords somewhere. Another round of laughs. That one hit different. Then Mom chimed in, loud enough for my section of the table to hear. At least she's safe and not chasing danger like some kids these days. Safe. Like I was wrapped in bubble wrap, walking through life without impact. I nodded, teeth locked behind a fake smile. I knew the script. I knew not to fight it. No one ever wanted to hear otherwise. Dad clinked glasses with Dean. You're building real things out there, son. That one was the nail. I took a sip of wine, slow and steady, swallowing the heat building in my chest. I scanned the room. They all looked so proud, so impressed. And once again, I was wallpaper. Useful, unremarkable wallpaper. I stood up quietly and headed toward the back patio for air. The door stuck a little, so I gave it a quick shove and stepped into the cool night. Inside, the speeches kept rolling. I could still hear them. But I didn't go back in. Not yet. I pulled out my keychain, pressed my thumb against the tiny black device clipped between my car key and house fob. No alert. Not yet. But something in me hoped for one. The breeze out there was sharp. I leaned on the railing, listening to the muffled party noise inside. The cold felt better than pretending I was fine. It's not like this was new. This had been my whole life. Every Thanksgiving, I was the one setting the table while Dean came late from practice, all sweaty and loud, Mom fawning over him like he'd just flown in from war. I'd fold the napkins into triangles. No one noticed. No one asked. Every photo, family reunions, birthdays, holidays, I was the one half-turned, fading into the background. I didn't smile much. I stopped trying around high school. Dean got parades when his team won regionals in 10th grade. They bought him a leather jacket with the school logo stitched across the back. I remember standing in the kitchen a few weeks later, letter in hand. I just won a statewide coding scholarship, I told them. That's nice, honey, Dad said, without even looking up from the sports section. They didn't ask what the scholarship was for. They didn't ask how many kids had applied, just moved on. The phone rang, and Dad said, Dean's got a new girlfriend. Real pretty one. I didn't say another word that night. I just helped Mom load the dishwasher and went upstairs. You start learning things that way. You learn how to disappear, quietly, politely. By the time I was in college, I knew the rules. You show up for the big events. You keep your updates short. And if Dean has a story, you wait your turn, even if your story was bigger. I remember the moment that finally cracked something in me. Senior year, we flew to San Francisco for a cybersecurity competition, national level, top-tier universities. We came in first. I beat teams backed by million-dollar labs. I called home. Hey, we won it. The whole thing, Mom said. Oh, that's great. Is Dean still seeing that girl with the curly hair? They didn't ask what we built. They didn't ask what it meant. It was like they thought I won a science fair. And when I got my job with the federal contractor, they told people I worked with computers. Once, at Easter, I overheard Dad telling Uncle Rick, yeah, she does tech support stuff, keeps people's accounts safe or whatever. I was logging 18-hour shifts designing anti-ransomware countermeasures for national infrastructure. But sure, resetting passwords. I swallowed it all. smiled through it, stayed helpful. That's what I was good at. I carried boxes when Dean moved apartments, picked up mom's prescriptions when she had surgery, drove dad to the DMV when his license expired. No one said thank you, just acted like it was natural, like I didn't have anything better to do. At some point, I stopped expecting recognition. But I didn't stop feeling it. That dull sting every time they looked through me like I was a placeholder. And the worst part? They weren't cruel. They weren't mean. That would have been easier. They just didn't see me. Not really. I wasn't loud. I didn't demand. And they mistook that for not mattering. But every time they brushed me aside, some part of me kept score. They didn't know it, but the tab was running. Every shrug, every overlooked win, every dinner where I sat silent while Dean took center stage. It all added up. Inside, I heard another burst of applause. Dean must have made another joke. I stayed out a little longer, fingers gripping the railing. My face was still cool, but my chest felt tight. Not sad, not jealous. Done. I didn't want revenge. I didn't want some big showdown, but I wasn't going to disappear forever. I left the party early, said I had to work in the morning. No one argued. By 6 the next morning, I was 20 feet underground in a reinforced ops center in Arlington, Virginia. Fluorescent lights, matte gray walls, and cold air recycled through a filtration system I could probably diagram in my sleep. No more string lights or craft cocktails. Just blinking monitors, silent keyboards, and focused faces. They call me Echo 9 here. No Janelle, no Stratton, just a call sign and a clearance badge. I liked it better that way. I took my seat in Sector 4, Financial Systems Oversight. My desk had 6 monitors, 3 keyboards, and a secure line that never rang unless something was on fire, literally or digitally. It started with a ripple, not even a red flag. Just a hiccup, a weird timestamp on a Commerce API call from a domestic bank chain. Not even one of the big players. I flagged it out of habit, but it kept happening. Slight variations in packet headers, same source mask, all routed through what looked like an archived verification subroutine. That's not normal. That's not supposed to even be live. I opened the raw logs. No errors, no trace routes leading anywhere suspicious. But something was off. It felt tucked in. That's when the hairs on my arms went up. I ran a diagnostic on the full API structure and cross-checked it against internal mirrors from last quarter. Buried inside was a call function too clean to be accidental. Minimal footprint, obfuscated logic, perfect for evasion. A backdoor, tiny, elegant, and completely invisible unless you knew what to look for. I hit the escalation key. Within 30 minutes, I was in a closed-door meeting with the senior threat analysts and 2 people I didn't recognize. Suits, badges, no names. I walked them through the logs, click by click, line by line. "This shouldn't exist," I said, pointing to the function. They were quiet. I kept going. "It's designed to intercept transaction verifications. Not all at once. Just enough to reroute micropackets. In scale, over time." I tapped another window. Nay. This could have built up a secondary shadow ledger under the real one. Fake balances, synthetic deposits, undetected siphoning. And if they triggered a release? I brought up the simulation I'd built 10 minutes before the meeting. Market chaos. We're talking mass sell-offs, phantom trades, system overloads, stock exchanges offline in under 48 hours. One of the suits shifted in his chair. "How sure are you?" 98%, I said. "The other 2% is margin of error. But this code's not accidental. It was tested. It was waiting." They exchanged looks. My supervisor, Patel, leaned forward, hands clasped. "You just found this during routine monitoring?" "I wasn't looking for it," I said, "but it was looking for me." Silence. Heavy, calculating. Then Patel nodded. "We'll escalate." Immediately, he looked at me square in the face. "Your find might have just saved the economy." I didn't blink. I didn't smile. I just nodded once and closed the simulation. Because there's no parade here, no applause, no toasts, just the quiet reality that your brain saw something no one else did. And the stakes were everything. And you go back to your desk like it's just another Tuesday. The rest of that week was lockdown, internal audits, contingency plans, late-night calls from branches I wasn't supposed to know existed. Then Friday hit, and they sent us home early. Said they'd brief us again Monday. So I went back to the party. By the time I walked in, the music was louder, the food half-eaten, and everyone at my parents' table looked just a little more tipsy. Dean had his fiancée on his arm, grinning like a commercial. They were retelling the same deal story for the third time, louder this time because someone brought more wine. I sat down like nothing had happened. No one noticed I'd been gone 12 hours. No one asked where I'd been. Dean held up a champagne flute. So, we're thinking late spring wedding. Vineyard, maybe. Something classy, Mom clapped. You two are just shining? I'm so proud I reached for my water, and that's when I felt it. The smallest buzz against my thigh. Not my phone, not my Fitbit, my keychain. I pulled it from my coat pocket, keeping it low under the table. The device looked like a regular black fob, but the tiny OLED screen was lit. White text on red. Echo 9, protocol red wire, confirm location. I blinked. Once. Twice. This was not a drill. I tapped the side button. The screen split into two options. Secure site current address. My thumb hovered over the top option. The secure evac would be clean, controlled, off-grid, no attention, no questions. A car would meet me at the Federal lot downtown in under 15 minutes. No one would know I was ever gone. But then I heard Dad laugh from across the table. She's marrying a genius, you know. Dean always knew how to pick 'em. Mom added, she's got good instincts. Just like Dean, not afraid of big moves, I looked at them. All of them. The same four faces that had spent years treating me like I was fine china. Safe, tucked away, never used for anything important. They didn't know what real pressure looked like, what real work felt like. They thought danger came with boots and bulletproof vests. They didn't know it could come through fiber optic cable in a packet header. And right now, I had a choice. I tapped current address. The screen flashed again. Location confirmed. Response unit en route. ETA, 12 minutes. I slipped the keychain back in my coat and stood up. Bathroom, I said, grabbing my clutch. No one looked twice. No one paused. I walked past the bar, past the dessert table, down a short hallway to the single-occupant restroom, locked the door behind me, flipped the deadbolt, sat down on the closed toilet lid. The room was quiet. Music barely made it through the wall. I could hear the ice machine humming behind me. My hands were steady. I checked my watch. 11 minutes. In my head, I reviewed the last known packet logs, the source mapping, the backup scenario, if the back door had already activated. It helped keep me still. At 6 minutes out, I heard the first thump of helicopter rotors far off. Soft, but there. At 4 minutes, I heard car tires screech outside the building. I stood up and straightened my jacket. By 2 minutes, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, no caller ID. I didn't answer. At 0, there was a knock on the restroom door. 3 soft taps. Pause. 2 more. Exact pattern. I opened it. A woman in dark tactical gear and a slate gray jacket stood there, expression flat. No words, just a nod. I followed her out without saying a thing. We moved fast. The woman led me through the hallway, past the private dining area, straight out the back exit where the kitchen staff took smoke breaks. She tapped her comm once, gave no signal I could see, and stepped aside. I kept walking. And then I heard it, a low rumble, distant but growing. Not thunder, not traffic, engines. By the time I reached the front sidewalk, the whole block was lit up like a stage. 2 blacked-out vans and a tactical transport truck rolled in from opposite ends of the street, tires slicing over asphalt like they owned it. Headlights killed. Floodlights switched on. Huge, white, blinding. Long shadows cut across the street like searchlight beams in a war zone. Neighbors came out, phones up, confused and whispering. Some filming, some frozen. The first tactical team moved in perfect formation, all dark uniforms, weapons holstered but ready. They moved toward the restaurant doors, past the valet stand, past the party banners. 0 hesitation, total precision. Another unit covered the front porch, flanking both sides of the main entrance. Dean was mid-sentence, champagne in hand, when he froze on the top step. His fiancée grabbed his arm. "What the hell is that?" someone asked behind him. People started backing up. Then she stepped forward. Same woman, slate gray federal jacket. No name, no badge, just authority. She stopped on the bottom step and looked up. Echo 9, extraction protocol. Immediate transport authorized, every head turned. Every eye followed her line of sight, straight to me. I walked up calmly, coat still buttoned, keychain in my pocket. Dean blinked. "What? Janelle?" I stepped up onto the porch, past the stunned crowd. The music had stopped. The party was over, but no one had said it yet. Dad stepped forward. What the hell is going on? I looked him dead in the eye. I have work, I said, real work. He opened his mouth like he had something else to say, but nothing came out. I turned toward the lead vehicle. The side door was already open. Inside, rows of black seats, dim red lighting, and silence. Like a shark's mouth, waiting. No ceremony, no goodbye. I walked down the porch steps. The sound of my boots hitting concrete was the only thing anyone could hear. Mom whispered, "She's being arrested." "No, she's not," someone else said. She called them." Dean stood completely still, face pale, mouth half open like he was trying to catch up in real time. I didn't explain. I didn't look back. The woman in gray nodded once as I passed her. "We're mobile," she said into her comm. I stepped inside the van. The door slammed shut behind me. No windows, just dim light and stillness. The engine roared back to life. Outside, the crowd grew louder. Voices, footsteps, phones recording. But they faded fast. We didn't stop. We didn't slow down. We drove off into the night, and I didn't feel guilt. I didn't feel fear. I felt seen. The van didn't stop until we were under DC. Literally under it. 4 levels down. In a classified federal site I wasn't even cleared for last week. Doors scanned my prints before opening. One hallway led to another, and then another, each one colder and more concrete than the last. We passed a wall of screens. Foreign news, stock tickers, emergency feeds, internal alerts. The digital world was already on fire, and most people didn't even know it yet. I dropped into a secure workspace filled with analysts, agents, and contractors I'd only heard about in briefings. No one introduced themselves. No one asked why I was there. I plugged in. The data stream came in hot. Log dumps, packet traces, server crawls. My hands moved faster than my thoughts. I already knew the pattern. My earlier report had been right, but this time I saw it stretch across 3 continents. Each attack point masked behind shell corporations. All money laundered through crypto exchanges that didn't officially exist. It wasn't just a backdoor. It was coordinated, timed, funded. This was a takedown attempt. A bearded guy in a Homeland polo leaned over my shoulder. "Is this what you flagged 2 days ago?" I nodded. "This is the scale." He blew out a breath. "Damn, this isn't cybercrime, this is warfare. We need full pull on financial relays and dark routing tunnels," I said, still typing. "And I want flags on any activity linked to Vantacore, Ghostfeed, and LucidPath." "They're the shells." "You sure?" "Positive." He stepped away to alert someone higher. I didn't watch. I kept working. I didn't feel pride. I didn't feel nerves. I felt useful. That was enough. People moved around me, chairs scooting, voices rising, terminals flashing with red banners. I sat still, focused, zero hesitation. This time, I wasn't a footnote. I wasn't background noise. Meanwhile, back on the street my family lived on, the circus had started. I saw it pop up on a live feed, not under my name, of course, just blurry footage of the convoy, grainy clips of neighbors whispering to reporters outside police tape. Mom stood on the porch in her robe, Dad behind her, arms crossed, eyes darting like he thought maybe someone would explain something. Dean was pacing in the driveway, arguing with a man holding a press badge. The reporter asked, "Is it true your sister was taken by federal agents?" Dean said, "She wasn't taken. I think I don't know. She called them, you believe she's involved in something serious?" "She works in IT," Dean said. "She's quiet." "She's not." He stopped, face blank. "I don't know." Back in the facility, I finished building the counter map. Real-time response paths. If we were fast, we could intercept 3 of the 4 attack vectors before activation. Someone called out, "She just built a complete mirror schema from scratch. It's already parsing." Another voice. "Get that to counterfinance and joint ops." Now I kept typing. One hand cracked my knuckle without thinking. There were no cheers, no pats on the back, but no one was looking past me either. Echo 9, briefing room 4. I looked up from my terminal. One of the site officers stood in the doorway, tablet in hand. He didn't have to say more. I logged out, pulled the drive, and stood. I hadn't slept in over 20 hours, but I felt sharp, not wired, not shaky, just steady. 2 levels up, briefing room 4 sat behind a thick steel door with dual code entry. When it opened, I stepped into a space I'd only seen in classified orientation footage. Secure, silent, half-lit. Monitors lined the walls. A single projection screen glowed at the front. 14 people were seated. The Secretary of Commerce, 2 senior officials from the Bureau, national cybersecurity directors, one guy in a black suit I couldn't place, but based on the silence when he entered, I knew better than to guess out loud. I walked to the front and connected my drive. No intro, no pleasantries. I brought up the first slide. This infiltration started as a dormant protocol in an archived Commerce API. I clicked, which ran quietly for over 6 months before routing data into a secondary stream through a shell company in the Cayman Islands. No one interrupted. They used staggered timestamps to simulate organic banking traffic, I continued, bringing up a visual overlay. And over time built a shadow account structure across multiple institutions. The FBI rep leaned in. How did we not catch this sooner? They made the attack look like noise, half errors, null pings. Nothing consistent enough to trip a pattern flag. Unless you were already looking, I changed slides again. Once the structures were stable, they created synthetic deposits to trigger phantom asset trades. More visuals, more gasps, but no one spoke out of turn. The result? I said. If triggered, it would have caused a domino effect on 3 U.S. exchanges. Automatic failsafes would have engaged, but the load volume was enough to delay shutoffs. 48 hours, maybe less, and the market crashes under false trades and perceived insolvency. I paused. The shell corporations behind it were routed through known cyber mercenary entities operating out of Russia, Singapore, and a remote hosting site in Nigeria. Coordinated, funded, timed. I clicked to the final screen, a static map showing the full trace path. The room was dead quiet. For a few seconds, no one moved. Then the secretary sat forward and said, without a smile, "You may have prevented a financial collapse. Thank you, Miss Stratton, not Echo 9, not IT, not Dean's sister. Miss Stratton." I nodded once. "Yes, sir." He turned to the others. Full-level response. Begin internal comms lockdown. This briefing doesn't leave this room. People around the table stood up immediately, already issuing orders into comms, gathering documents, moving fast. I powered down the display, pulled the drive, slid it into the secure case. No one asked for anything else. No one questioned my readout. They didn't need to. I'd walk them through the storm, and they finally saw who was holding the damn umbrella. I walked out of that room without applause, without a handshake, without a single camera in sight. But something in my chest felt still, level. For the first time in my life, I wasn't proving anything. I was just doing the job. I headed straight back to work. Not because anyone told me to, and not because I needed to. It's just what you do when your brain doesn't know how to shut off anymore. The new project wasn't public-facing. Internal risk assessment across high-volume digital transaction hubs. No drama, no floodlights. Just code, patterns, logic. I liked it that way. 3 nights later, I was sitting alone in one of the auxiliary workrooms inside our secure facility. It was almost midnight. The room hummed with white noise and the buzz of a floor vent I kept meaning to report. My eyes were fixed on a spread of packet delays when my phone buzzed. Not a priority line, not a work contact. Personal. I picked it up, thumb hovered for a second. Dean Stratton, 11:58 p.m. "I'm sorry, I didn't know. You're incredible." Really, I stared at it for a while. There was no punctuation in the first sentence, like he'd typed it fast. The second part tried to land soft, like a bandage on a wound he hadn't seen until someone else pointed at the blood. A month ago, I would have felt that sting in my throat. That quiet, familiar ache like I should say something. Like maybe this was a moment to fix it. But now it felt like someone I used to know was talking about someone they'd never met. I didn't reply, didn't even type a single word and delete it. I just hit archive and put the phone face down next to my keyboard. That chapter didn't need an ending. It had already ended. Back on the screen, a new red flag popped, a region in Tennessee showing packet distortion. Minor, but enough to be worth digging into. I opened the diagnostic tools and leaned in. No music, no distractions, no noise. Just the work. By the next morning, it was everywhere. News alerts, market briefings, opinion shows with fake experts guessing out loud. Sources say a coordinated cyber attack on U.S. financial infrastructure was intercepted at the final hour. Intercepted. That was the word they kept using. They didn't mention who intercepted it, not by name. Just a vague reference to a specialized federal response team. No photos, no sound bites, no glory. Perfect. I was sitting in a debriefing room with 6 senior officials and a legal liaison from Treasury. No suits, just button-downs and coffee cups. Everyone looked like they hadn't slept because they hadn't. One of the older guys, half a donut in hand, leaned back in his chair and said, "If the public ever finds out who really stopped this thing, they'll think we made you up." Someone else chuckled, "She's probably already a conspiracy theory." I just shrugged. Let him guess. They all laughed again, and we moved on to risk audit plans and next steps for vulnerability review. No one offered an award. No one asked for a press quote. I didn't want one anyway. By the time the meeting wrapped, it was almost 7 p.m. I didn't feel like going back inside the bunker, so I took the long way home, through the city, on foot. DC was lit up. Warm street lamps, hum of tires, some late summer bar crowds spilling out near DuPont. It all felt so far from the thing we'd just stopped. A trillion-dollar failure hiding inside a clean string of code. And out here, people were sipping cocktails, scrolling TikTok, laughing about nothing. My phone buzzed in my coat pocket. Unknown number, voicemail left. I didn't recognize the voice ID, but the message preview said, "I don't understand what's happening, but I hope you're safe." "We love you, Mom." Of course it was. I let it play 3 seconds. I heard her voice, tight, confused, still trying to sound warm. Then I hit delete, not out of spite, not anger, just done. That kind of apology doesn't land when you spent 3 decades calling someone cautious instead of capable. I kept walking, head down, shoulders relaxed, the kind of calm that shows up after everything snaps, and somehow you're still standing. Nobody saw me, nobody stopped me. That was fine. I didn't need to be known. I needed to be free. I got back to the office around 1 a.m. No one else was there, just the hum of machines and the soft buzz of overhead lights that never turned all the way off. I liked it better that way. No chatter, no meetings, just the screen and the silence. I sat down, logged in, and started scanning through flagged activity from the last 4 hours. One packet caught my eye. Misaligned hash with a delay on the bounce back. Subtle, probably nothing. But probably nothing was how everything started. I tagged it for deeper inspection and leaned back in my chair. This was it. The real job. Not the one my family pictured when they talked about careers at dinner tables. Not the kind with corner offices and printed nameplates and retirement parties with sheet cake. This job didn't get thank you cards. It didn't come with titles you could brag about to friends. But it protected people who had no idea what almost hit them. My parents thought real work meant being seen, being congratulated, wearing a suit, getting your name in a newsletter. They thought I was just some quiet tech girl tapping on a keyboard, running updates, and helping people remember their passwords. They had no clue that half the systems they trusted to keep their savings intact, their credit, their health records, their mortgage accounts, were being stalked by people who could erase them with 4 lines of code. That I was the one in the way. And maybe it was better that way. Let them keep their image of me. It was easier for all of us. But I didn't need them to clap. I needed them to stop pretending they knew who I was. Now, finally, they didn't. That illusion was broken. I wasn't their placeholder anymore. I wasn't the extra chair at the table. I wasn't the safe one I never was. They just refused to look. And now I didn't owe them another second of trying to be visible. Another packet came through. My screen flashed once. I leaned forward, eyes narrowing. Whatever was next, I'd find it. That's what I do.